You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast for another short video from me and John Townley. John, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, mate. Yeah, good.
Shortest intro ever because we've been doing these all day, so I know that you're very well. You're wearing the same clothes as last week. Today's episode is all about Vitoria. Now, when V Sports, aka Nassef Sawiris and Wes Eden's holding company that own Aston Villa, acquired Vitoria, I was on paternity leave. So I saw a tweet, I thought, oh, interesting, and moved on with my life. Don't know anything about it, really. So this video serves as a purpose for anyone else who doesn't really know what's going on, and just a bit of an explainer about what the situation is. And also, I think the title is going to do something like, quite cheeky, we went to Vitoria and found out this, because you've been on holiday to Portugal and did a bit of digging. Just explain what it means for V Sports to acquire Vitoria.
V Sports is as you say, Dan, Sawiris and Eden's, that's a holding company for Villa. We know that they want to make they want to make a global brand. They want Villa to be in European football, but also benefit from other clubs in Europe, and a lot of Premier League clubs are doing this already and want to do more of it.
Man City, the example that most people will be familiar with.
Yeah, Wolves are now looking at buying actually about a Belgian club, other teams as well. But Leicester have a Belgian club too. But Villa have a minority stake, although it's 46%, which is a fair whack of Vitoria. They want to just say be global. They are looking at, was probably Eden's project more so, Las Vegas Villains, and as well we know Villa have sort of academies in like Egypt, Senegal, hopefully soon. There's another club that I can't remember, but yeah, they want to be sort of global players in football and sport. That we know they're like crazily ambitious, and Villa will be the main sort of benefactors of that. It's a big move, a big step forward in that. Sawiris has been in discussions was in discussions for about 2 years with Vitoria. And for different reasons, like red tape, there's different reasons why they had different presidents, and now they have a different president who was more open to the idea of taking V Sports as 46%. So that's why it took a while, although they've been wanting to do it for a long time. And Portugal is probably the hotspot for talent from Europe, South America. It's very the culture's sort of mix in Portugal, which is good for young players, and that's, as we'll go on to, that's one of the main reasons why they want to do it, and there's different reasons too. But yeah, to have a club, especially for the size of Vitoria as well, because you have the top three in Portugal, Benfica, Sporting, Porto, no one will ever get above those three. It's just, they won't. It's Portuguese football for the last 80 years, they've built up a sort of hegemonic sort of league that they are there. No one's going to displace them. But Braga, who are Vitoria's rivals, have always been the fourth best team, or at least in recent years, but they're no bigger than Vitoria. Vitoria arguably one of the most historic clubs in sort of in Portugal for sure. They were founded 100 years ago, which might not seem too long ago, but the actual place itself was the first capital of Portugal. It's a really nice place. It's a World Heritage Site, the actual town and city and stuff. It's really nice to visit. But
I love how this is like sightseeing with John Townley, a tour guide of Portugal.
Yeah, but yeah, trying to sort of stress that we've got a stake in this club, right? But it's actually, I think it's a very good move, because say Chelsea are now trying to buy a team in Portugal. Newcastle are trying to do it as well. They're almost trying to follow Villa, like 2 years behind. And Chelsea had a bid rejected for Portimonense, who were a much smaller club than Vitoria, for about 35 million, which would have been a majority stake, 75%. Villa don't have majority stake in Vitoria, but 46%, as I say, is a lot, and it's going to obviously affect decision making and stuff at that club, and an investment too. But yeah, I think it's a really good move for Villa to get a club that is one of the biggest clubs in Portugal, and that allows that club to be more powerful in negotiations, talent, recruitment, whatever it may be. And yeah, I'm very excited by it.
Would there be any possibility that Sawiris and Eden's involvement in Aston Villa is distracted by Vitoria or Vegas or anything, or is Villa always the big dog?
Villa has to be the big dog. Villa's a Premier League club, and the Premier League is the Super League. They want Villa to be on the top of, not necessarily the Premier League, but in European football they want to be a Champions League club. Like, there's a plan to get there. Emery's already said it, and everything is geared up for that. They are, I think, the fifth wealthiest owners in the Premier League, which, I think the Fulham owner's the fourth at the moment, Sahid Khan, I think his name is. But to really get to the top, you've got to have an ambition to really be there and doing what they're doing and the sort of movements that they're making. That's what's very exciting, and they're not buying Vitoria or they haven't bought them, sorry, they're not getting them a minority share in Vitoria to have holidays in Portugal, and it's not that, it is to benefit Villa. And although fans will be asking like, oh, well, is that going to make a massive difference short term? No, probably not, but we're talking 6 to 10 years and they're here for the long run, NSWE. So yeah, that's why I'm excited about it. It's not a short-term thing, it's a long-term process to make Vitoria or benefit Vitoria, and which will benefit Villa, and so the Vegas Villains, other academies, other clubs, I wouldn't be surprised, join the V Sports umbrella. So yeah, it's long-term, I think it's very exciting. And yeah, when I went there, I didn't go there, by the way, just to go there on holiday. I went to Porto, which is about 40 minutes away in the coach. And again, it's like they are a very, I don't say a massive club in Portugal, but apart from the top three, they are there, and that's why I'm excited about it, because it's not just getting a club in Portugal, it's getting a lot of, they need more infrastructure, that sort of thing, of course, and that's what NSW will help give them. But they're a club that has a lot of opportunity, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and it's a very good, and I'd tell you, I think most Premier League clubs would sort of snap your hands off for that sort of stake in a club like Vitoria.
What was it like then? So you went to Portugal on holiday. You didn't go to Vitoria as a journalistic research trip, but you did do a bit of journalism while you were there, to be fair. Explain to me who you spoke to, what the area was like. I mean, there's always a possibility, at least it's the easy fan thing to say, is that Villa have acquired a Portuguese club. Let's go there on pre-season. Now, obviously, we don't know if that's the case this season or next or whenever, but it seems pretty likely, doesn't it? Your partnership club that you go there on pre-season. I'd be amazed if we didn't go to Vitoria for pre-season. So if that is the case, what's it like?
Yeah, I went to Porto. My partner's Portuguese and she's a big Porto fan, so we went for the Champions League game against Inter Milan. The game was really bad, but it was a cool experience. It was my first Champions League game. So anyway, I twisted her arm to go to Guimarães, which is I think I said that right. Guimarães is the city, the municipality, divided into like 48 parishes. So it's like Portugal sort of works like it's in the north, basically. Guimarães, 40 minutes north of Porto. It's closer to Braga. So if you're going to go on a pre-season game, you'd get a flight. I think they do them from Birmingham sometimes to Porto, and then get a coach or a train about half an hour. Yeah, it's a really nice place. World Heritage Site, first capital of Portugal. Really pretty sort of town centre. And they've got like it's very medieval, like it's cobblestones everywhere. There's a big castle. Say the first like completely out of my the first king of Portugal like founded Guimarães, so it's very like historic, and you do find that that sort of tradition stuff is embedded in the football club, because everyone in Guimarães is very proud of where they are and who they are. The two people that I spoke to were two experts. I wanted to speak to someone in the club, but we didn't manage to get access. Tiago and Bruno were two people who I spoke to. They're experts, fans of Vitoria since they were 6, and they were very proud of the fan base. They said that Benfica, Porto and Sporting, they are the 3 biggest clubs in Portugal. We all know that. And in other cities, you will get fans like wearing the shirts and stuff like that. I don't know. Unfortunately, you see it in Birmingham. You get like United fans and Liverpool and even like London, elsewhere. But we're not kind of big Newcastle or anything, but Newcastle seems to be a bit of a one-club city. Yeah. That's the feeling in Guimarães as well. So they're very proud of who they are. The city itself is very historic. It's very traditional, and the club sort of plays into that. There's a lot of clubs in the north of Portugal, so Guimarães have to be very sort of ahead of the game in terms of how they do things, because they're obviously, Portuguese football is very reliant on the fan base, to be the club that they are. So they clearly do that very well, and that's why there's also a bit of scepticism amongst the fan base, and we'll go on to it, but of this partnership, because you don't want to lose your identity, which is a very like traditional identity. You don't want to lose that to a Premier League club, don't know who you
selling
are.
Out kind of thing.
Exactly, and that's why I'm pleased, to be honest, that Villa didn't get a majority stake, because I don't want Premier League clubs to start owning, like Chelsea want to own a Portuguese club and get like 75%. I don't think that should be allowed myself. I think the Premier League is already too big. In 5 years, if Premier League clubs just own every club like around what we come into. So but it's a really nice place in general if you want to visit. It's quite small, it's all the town centre and stuff, but it says close to Braga, which is a nice place, and Porto itself, obviously the second city. It's further away from Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal. hopefully there's a pre-season game coming up and Villa fans will enjoy the experience.
So now we're all Vitoria till we die instead of Villa till we die. What are the benefits then? The obvious thing is, maybe Villa send their youngsters out to Portugal to get a different taste of football, different experiences, different cultures. Portuguese talent pool, being able to tap straight into that directly. They're my uneducated, obvious answers. Is there further benefits than that, in your opinion?
Those have to be the two major benefits. It's worth saying from the start that this isn't a feeder club situation. It's nothing like that. We're not saying I'm proud to not be doing this. And
so we're not going to be Chelsea just going, here's 30 loan players we don't want, send them to Vitoria.
Yeah, it's like the Vitesse, which is another V. You never know in the future. Vitesse and Chelsea work like that. And it's just if you're a Vitesse fan, you're like a second Chelsea. Like, I don't like it. So yeah, the main, I suppose, benefit for Villa would be players and stuff. But I think the one that you probably lose is that Villa are now in Portugal, technically. I know it's 46% of one club, but that's access to a different market, it's access to a different league, it's access to recruitment, scouting, all of that, which Vitoria have been good at. They're the club that brought through Rafinha, the Barcelona player. They brought through Tapsoba as well. I think he's still at Bayer Leverkusen. Maybe wrong. Brought him through, and that's only in the last 2 years. But we know that Portuguese football has made like £750 million of player sales in the last 2 years. It's mental how many players come out of there, and it's not just your Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez and other players like that, Enzo Fernandez. It's not just those players, it's loads of others that it's like 12 or up to 20 players or something that are worth like 25 million or more in the last 2 years. So it's a massive market, and it allows Villa to say to Vitoria, okay, if Villa want a striker, for example, I don't know, John Duran, it might have been easier for us to go through Vitoria and say, we're looking at this striker in South America, but he can't play for us because he doesn't have his passport or whatever it may be. I don't know. Just an example. Plays for Portugal in 1 year and plays well and whatever. Because that seems to be the league where whatever player goes there that's young, it seems to, like, Benfica have a never-ending conveyor belt of talent. Like Darwin Núñez goes for 80 million. The next one's up, Gonçalo Ramos. He's about 80 million now. Who's the one after that? Well, he's going to be good. So I know Benfica's streets ahead. Like, they have academies everywhere in Portugal, which is a problem. But Villa will benefit in numerous ways. We just don't know yet, because ultimately, if we're looking at a player that's like, in 6 years' time, they might only be like 12 now. So we don't know exactly, but there's clear benefits. We can give them players. There could be a funnel for them to give us players. It's not going to be, we'll just take Vitoria's best player. It's not that. Although, if Marcus Edwards was still there, you're true. But it's the access to better.
To me, it's cutting out the middleman that you see so many times, where a Brentford or a Brighton sign this player from absolutely nowhere, develop them into a £60 million player, recycle the process, replace them with somebody out of nowhere, and it keeps going and going and going. Villa have spent fortunes on players that they handpick from somewhere like a Brighton, as an example. It's getting rid of that process and going via Vitoria and saying, right, this player in Portugal or this player in South America or wherever has come through this process, we're going to nick them from there for 6 million, develop them in the Premier League to 50 million, rather than go to Brighton, for example, and spend 40 million on a player that they've developed. It's cutting out that middleman process.
Exactly. It's just buying a top talent from South America, because that's where they seem to come from, and saying, all right, well, he's not ready now. Oh, Vitoria, do you want him? Because he's clearly going to play well for you. He plays well for them. He comes
do you
back,
want him?
he comes back to Villa, and all of a sudden we've got it's like Douglas Luiz, I don't know, he comes to City, couldn't play. What are we going to do with him? We'll give him to Girona, comes back to City, and that's the sort of thing. And to say that's what Chelsea want to do. They don't want to spend 100, although they probably don't care, but they don't want to spend 120 million on Enzo Fernandez every summer. They can do that in a different way, and for us, our academy isn't as massive as Chelsea's or other teams, that we can sort of play it. It's a bit more cleaner, I think. We can handpick players, and South Americans say, right, we'll take 5 of these, give them to Vitoria, maybe not that many, but there's a clear strategy there that it will be very successful for Villa. And just the other thing as well, Benfica, Sporting, Porto, they will buy players out of Guimarães that are like 13 or 14 and give them a contract. That's a massive problem for Vitoria, sorry. Benfica have like 5 regional talent spots, so it's not just in Lisbon. They're like sort of veins sucking lifeblood out of all the smaller clubs. But Villa, investing in Vitoria, can say, well, to the 13-year-old wonder kid or whatever it may be, 16-year-old, you don't need to go to Benfica and be one of literally 100 players in a age group, which is what happens in Benfica. You can play well in Vitoria. loan your trade there, and you have a pathway to the Premier League with Villa. So, or not just Villa, but other teams, because linking the Premier League and the Portuguese league is, yes, we're part of Vitoria, but we're also part of a much bigger sort of network. So there's massive benefits for Villa. It just might take a little while for, fans might forget with Vitoria in 2 years, but then in 5 years there might all of a sudden be a £60 million player that we might stumble across. So
honestly, that was a real education for me, if nothing but about Vitoria. The location in the area, and the first castle and the first capital, or whatever it was. Away from the football, what was the best part of Vitoria? What was your favourite moment? Did you have something nice to eat there? I've got to get a nonsense question in after all that educational stuff.
We're in... it's not just in Guimarães, actually. It's in most of the cities in Portugal. In their big shopping malls and stuff, they have they're 2 tiers, and then the third tier is always a big food hall. And then they have this one place called Sabor Gaucho, and I don't know what that means, but it's you get steak, three lots of steak, or 3 cuts of steak, rice, chips, salad, the whole lot for £6 or £7. Really good. So I had that about 4 times when I was there. Oh, nice. But then it was in Guimarães as well, which I was really happy about, because we'd come off the bus and then it was I need something to eat, and it was there, and that was the best moment I saw. And that says a lot about that probably doesn't play much into the great club and stuff, but no, it was just a really good experience. And as I say, it was nice to meet 2 people who were so proud of the club and stuff, because I'll go in there, I thought I'll speak to them and they'll say, oh yeah, it's Portuguese football and blah blah. It's not obviously not going to say this, but I think people undermine Portuguese football a little bit and say, it's not one of the top 5 leagues and there's only 3 clubs in it and stuff. But actually, it's the people there are so passionate about the clubs, and especially in Vitoria, and it really does reflect the community. So I'm proud to be associated with them, I suppose, and I think that's why Sawiris was so sort of determined to get there after 2 years of negotiations.
Yeah, nice. Like I said, I think that's a good education on the whole scenario. If no one else has enjoyed it, I have at least. So thank you for that. I'm sure you'll join me in the comments by thanking John for his expertise and his trip to Vitoria to find out all this information for us. We've got plenty more content coming up on the Claret and Blue podcast. So yeah, stay tuned to the show, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue and Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your thoughts and comments. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.